Welcome to Race 5 of Super League Triathlon's eSports cycling series, the fifth and last race across the month of June. It's been fantastic watching the racing unfold and watching our athletes out there on Zwift delivering some of the tightest finishes we have seen across Super League racing, virtual or otherwise. We are now up to race 3 in the men's. That means we head back to Watopia after the women's race. What a fantastic race that was. The Hilly Route reverse, and to preview everything over the next 15 minutes or so before we get into the racing, Chris McCormack joins me once again. Macca, again, we're here with plenty of anticipation, I guess, because the last race was decided by 500ths of a second, and it's the old battle between GB and Australia, and we're looking for another chapter in that tonight.
Oh, without question. I thought the last race was magnificent. Jackson Laundry just coming over the top of Alistair Brownlee in that bunch sprint. But what we learnt there was that Australia-Great Britain split, all those athletes in those teams right up near the front, but Alex Yee's points accumulated on those intermediate sprints put Great Britain in front of Australia in the overall. So this is going to be a very, very interesting race. This Hilly 8 course is tough. The Watopia course, we've called it on in the past. It's a very, very difficult course. It's not as hilly and technical as the other ones. These roly-poly hills will make it tough, but 108 metres of elevation will make sure that if you're not up near the front, you're in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, indeed. So just to update everyone on what happened last time, Jackson Laundry from Team USA finished 500ths of a second ahead of Alistair Brownlee. So when you can pip the Olympic champion by that far or by any amount, it's a very, very good day at the office. He picked up the $500. Ali got the 250, and Max Stapley, the Frenchman who is actually Australian, he was racing for Team Australia as well. He finished third in a three-way bunch sprint finish. But Team GB, as Macca mentioned, won the points race through the 4 intermediates by 1 point, thanks to Alex Yee picking up 5 points on the last intermediate. That means that the standings overall, and this is where the big money, Macca, is in the Team GC. So we take our top 2 riders from each team across the course of each of the 3 races, add up their times, and whichever team comes out with the lowest overall time picks up $4,000. And after 2 races, can you believe this? Australia, 2 hours 26:47. Team GB, 2 hours 26:49. Canada, 2 hours 26:50. So 3 seconds separating 3 teams. Isn't that amazing?
It's incredible. And those 3 teams have distanced themselves from Canada, who are sitting about, from France, who are 20 seconds behind Canada. Yeah, so it's been really, really interesting. I think the great thing for me has been seeing the consistency of the Australians. We haven't seen Australia at the top of the triathlon world for quite some time. I know this is not triathlon racing per se, but it does come with a lot of team tactics. Aaron Riel leading that charge and doing a great job. And if you look at the actual individual performances, if you had a green jersey per se on this racing, David Manwaring, the Australian, has been the most consistent individual rider on the circuit. So it's been David, Alistair Brownlee and Mark Buckingham in second and third. It's on the point scoring if you had a green jersey. So that shows why the Australians and the Great Britain athletes have been all over it. Aaron Royal's probably been 4th best on road. So I've enjoyed the racing. I think this entire team concept's been great. It allows these leaders of teams to bring in those other athletes and work well together. The athletes, our athletes, are getting much better at this Zwift racing. If you take yourself back to our first event when Ali was on the front and got his doors blown off in that first time he ever experienced Zwift racing. That's definitely out the back door now. He's up the front, really marching his troops to get across the line. And Alex G's been the main benefactor of that and picking up points for the team. So it's been magnificent racing.
Yeah, you mentioned that green jersey, and it's really interesting to go through the top 10. And there's some Super League athletes, although we do invite other athletes to get involved. And David Manwaring has taken a total of 32 points across all the intermediates across the 2 races. Alistair Brownlee, Mark Buckingham on 21. So he's streeted both of them. Aaron Royal, 19. Marten van Riel racing for Team Australia, 17. Jackson Laundry pick up the whole bunch in the second race. He's on 16. Alex Yee's been really fantastic. Max Stapley's been great. Nathan Killam has been flying the flag for Team Canada, and Leo Bergere, who we know very well from Super League, rounds out the top 10. But guys like Laundry, Manwaring, these guys that we haven't really heard much from in a Super League sense, but it's great to see them mixing with the bigger name athletes, at least when you're talking about super short course racing.
Yeah, without question. I think we as spectators of the sport might know them, but I guess all the athletes there, I know David Manwaring in particular does a lot of his training with Aaron Royal and a lot of the Australians who are in his team. So they're part of these broader training groups. Jackson Laundry as well is part of these broader training groups that are doing all their workloads together during a season, but haven't really had the opportunity to race Super League racing. And when we bring these eSports teams together and they get a start and they get to race with their peers, they've done what most of their peers know and have seen in training, what they're very much capable of doing. I've been really impressed with David Manwaring. I've known the guy for many, many years. I had running races with him back when I was racing, so that's how long I've known of David, and he's always been a huge talent. His swim has let him down in a triathlon perspective, but his run and bike is magnificent, and I thought he's been the standout of the esports racing. I just love watching him in his pain cave. He doesn't really get out of the saddle. He's very, very controlled. He doesn't show a lot on his face. If you contrast that to an Alex Yee or even an Alistair Brownlee who don't hold a good poker face, they are in absolute agony. I thought David has been really the standout of all the athletes racing over the series.
You're absolutely correct. He has been fantastic, and he's no secret to those in the know, but he's really announced himself to the broader community of Super League on this one. Let's have a look at the map, if you like, and it's very important when it comes to Zwift racing, exactly what it's like, whether the lighter athletes come to the fore on high elevation, longer climbs, as we've seen, or otherwise for the power athlete. And this is probably more of a power athlete course, the Hilly Route reverse. You can't race that on Zwift, or you can't ride that on Zwift in a casual ride. It's only available in the reverse format for events. But it is the very first bit of road that was opened in Watopia on Zwift way back in the day when it all began. We do 3 laps of this in reverse, the Hilly Route, 27.5 kilometres total. So you've got a couple of 100 metres lead in off the pier in downtown Watopia, and then you head off for 6 intermediates. The sprint through the Italian villas, which is only a 180 metre sprint. It's a straight sprint. Comes just after the villas and just before the bridge in Watopia, and then the Hilly King of the Mountain, which comes at 7.5 kilometres in. So we're going to hit both of those 3 times for a total of 30 points, and then of course it's a sprint to the line as well. No points available there, but of course the race win. There's a little bit of everything in this course, which is great. Not a lot of flat road. It's probably draftable enough to keep a big group together. There's no really big climb, but there's constant up and down. So an attack can stick on those rolling sort of S's, and the course is probably hard enough to allow a breakaway if you're very, very strong. But when it comes to this kind of racing and these caliber of athletes, we're probably going to see a bunch sprint once again. And we've seen that twice, and this course lends itself to that. So Australia then in the box seat, Macca?
Oh, I think so. I think looking at this course, it's going to come down to a bunch sprint. If you look back to the women's race we had a couple of nights ago when Lucy Charles made that move on that longer climb and broke the women's field up, I just don't think there's that type of climb in this race that'll enable an Ali Brownlee or even a Jackson Laundry or some of those big front pack drivers to split the group up. They've got to be very, very aware of where the sprints are. I've seen in a few of the races we've called a lot of the athletes missing that timing on the sprint and not getting the points they need. It's all coming down to this event for Australia and Great Britain on the overall. There's a lot of money on the line, so it's going to be up to those bunch leaders I think they're going to want to keep this group together, but the team leaders making sure their athletes are aware where the sprints are, making sure they pick up their points, and making sure it's not just winning the race, but their other second, third, and fourth riders are right there to accumulate points in case one of the teams gets the timing wrong.
Yeah, that's where the real money is made. So the second rider in each nation needs to be pushing right up and finishing there or thereabouts after whoever manages to take out the sprint. There is some, after the Villas sprint, I just want to mention there's some nice rollers after the Villas that we'll see. There's some light climbing there, and it's really going to be important to position yourself in the right spot before the reverse KOM, because we know that we've seen big numbers push early in those KOM sprints. If you want to pick up those points, you've got to be at the front of the pack. Or to push the pace to put the pressure on everybody else. Before we get to the race, which is only about 5 minutes away now, let's pull out a few names that we haven't spoken about yet. The first one I want to talk about is James Cunnama, who at 37 years of age, and he's an Ironman athlete and a Challenge Roth winner and a 70.3 athlete. His numbers were absolutely huge. He only came in late for Team France, despite being not French, and his numbers were actually unbelievable for a guy that isn't used to racing over such short, punchy distances.
Yeah, well, James Cunnama is a magnificent professional athlete. He's had an incredible career. As you said, Challenge Roth champion. He was fourth in Kona. Really renowned for a massive run. And I've heard, through the grapevine and the rumours as a former athlete that he has massive VO2 numbers. So there's always been a lot of talk about James Cunnama delivering at the biggest level, which he's done. So bring him into this Super League racing where it is much more intense and VO2 numbers do matter. He's probably light in South Africa at the moment. I know he's sitting there with Jodie Cunnama, his wife, who's very, very committed to a fitness regime. I think he was the standout for an Ironman athlete. I know we've had other Ironman athletes competing, but he was definitely the standout athlete for the Ironman represented athletes within our Super League racing. So look for him to be very, very strong again. This course will suit him.
Yeah, he picked up all the points for Team France, which is the only points that were taken by any team outside of GB in Australia in the last race across the intermediates. Someone else I want to pull up. I mean, obviously, when we talk Team GB, we always talk about Ali Brownlee. We've mentioned Alex Yee as well. But Mark Buckingham, as he always does, playing a really strong supporting role. He obviously knows the Brownlees very well. He's multiple national champion in Britain. He's done it all really, aquathon, duathlon, etc. But he's been super strong, and he's got the biggest sort of 15 or 20 second numbers of anyone in the field.
Yeah, and like you said, Bucko has a lot of experience. He's been around the Brownlee boys since the beginning of the Brownlee boys. So he's been part of that powerful Leeds training group. But his experience as a racer is really showing in this, and he has enough, I guess, pack presence or group presence within that Team GB to take a leadership role. Even though Alistair sits as the leader on the road within that group, I'm sure Bucko is talking strategy with the team. And what I find really, really good about Bucko is when you're seeing him do these sprints and collecting those points, a lot of the mistakes, especially the Norwegians made in the past, is after those sprints is letting their power numbers drop off too quickly, where they take a bit of a rest and they get isolated. Bucko plans those sprints, stays up near the front, tends to group his riders together. So along with Alistair, I think he's one of the pivotal reasons that Team GB has been so good in this racing, because you have two sort of semi-leaders on the road, one being Alistair Brownlee and one Mark Buckingham, and both have the talent to win these events if put in the right position.
Yeah, getting on the Discord and making sure that there's plenty of chat is the most important thing. And GB in Australia have been better than everybody else. Like we talked to Christian Blumenfeld prior to the last race, and he was hurting after the first race and said he was going to spend more time up the front. He got shelled again. And Team Norway have been underwhelming for mine. Like Andre Espedal is out in this race, and it just shows you that when you've got a fractured team and a team that probably isn't necessarily communicating like they should, it's really, really easy to find yourself 2 minutes back halfway through a race.
Well, if you're not having these discussions, that's exactly what happens, and I think that's been the problem with Team Norway. They've got all the talent in the roster. They just haven't. You can see it. They are very, very fractured. You've got Christian on the front doing a lot of the work, and it just seemed to not share that workload and not get their timing right. They will never put themselves in a position. It's as if they didn't know where the sprints were, and that's very, very difficult in this Zwift racing is knowing where the sprints are. You're in your pain cave, you're looking at a computer screen, you're looking at what's happening, and you need to know that in 400 metres time there's a bunch sprint. If this was real racing, you would know that. The crowds would come into play, but you need to control that, and you need that communication. And Ali and Bucko on the GB side have really taken that leadership role and pushed that. And without question, Aaron Royal has done that with that Australian team and been the main driver of the success of the Australian team. And I think team communication is absolutely everything. And the teams that are sitting at the bottom of this racing have been so because they're failing in that communication.
Give me the winner of this race and the winner of the overall GC.
I'm sticking with Australia. I've been with them the whole time. I'm going to stick with Australia winning the teams. I'm going to give David Manwaring another win. I just enjoy watching him on in the pain cave. He just seems so controlled, and I just would love to see them take out GB for once. It's been so long coming. So I'm going to go with Australia and David Manwaring.
All right, I see Marten van Riel do the job this time, and I think Team Australia as well. Of course we do. We're both very biased. Let's head to Watopia and the Hilly Route reverse right now. It is the last of our 3 men's races in the eSports cycling series. And just like that, we are in Watopia and following along with Alistair Brownlee, and 3 seconds to go. We're on the pier in downtown, 3 laps of the Hilly Route reverse, and we are off, and we left a couple of people behind there straight away. But as we follow Ali Brownlee back off the pier, this should be a really, really interesting one because, as we said, there are 6 intermediates in this one, 2 seconds between Team Australia and Team GB, and don't discount Team Canada either, who are also just 3 seconds back, and this one will be decided in the last intermediate up the King of the Mountain, if not before.
Oh, yeah, for sure. This is going to be a great race, as we said earlier. It was good to see Alistair Brownlee straight off the mark very, very quickly, and there's been a few changes, though, I think, as Aidan Longcroft-Harris is up close to the front, racing for the USA. I saw on the start list there's been a jump across teams.
There is. There's been a late jump, and we've got a few late ins and outs as well, as tends to happen in these things. Danilo Souza is out for Ronaldo Colucci, comes in for Brazil. For France, we've had multiple changes. We had yesterday Leo Bergere and Vincent Lewis in. They are now out again. Pierre Lacour, Sam Laidlow, James Kunema, and Ben Delaporte are Team France at the moment. For Team Norway, Sebastian Vernessen, unfortunately, is out. He injured his foot yesterday and cannot race, so we feel for him. Team Norway down to 3 men, though. Christian Blumenfeld, Casper Storms, and Cedric Christopherson. And who else? As he said, Aidan Longcroft-Harris is on the front right now, taking it to the rest of the crew. 900 metres into this one, he comes in for Team USA, so he's come from Canada. So a very interesting setup for these teams now, but as we've come to rely on, the teams that are in the mix, Australia, Canada, and Team GB, all are unchanged from the last race, and that's important to be able to have that, collusion working well. The communication between team members is what's been delivering good results.
Well, that's been, as we've talked about, I think the difference between the teams on the front of these rankings and the teams at the bottom has been that team communication, that cohesion of the group and the communication of those team leaders. And Great Britain and Australia have done that better than anybody. But Aidan Longcroft-Harris for the USA, if he has moved across, is a great signing because he seems in the right mood to be aggressive today. There's Jackson Laundry on screen, but I think Aidan might be the horsepower that the USA needs to do something in today's racing because they haven't been over this series at all since the onset. It's really been an Australia and Great Britain affair with Canada right up near the front as well.
Yeah, to get everyone up to speed, Team GB were up by 1 point in the end after Alex G, the man on screen, took out maximum points in the last intermediate. The last time around, they were racing in Yorkshire. Team GB did it by a point, picked up the $1,000, but it all comes down to the general classification. Now, of course, there's $1,000 on the line for the overall points winner of the race, and a further $4,000 for overall. And you think that whoever scoops it today will, in fact, take the whole thing as well. So there's plenty on the line for these guys, and more than anything, it's just bragging rights as they come into the opening sprint at the moment. So they've come out of the Etzers, and they'll take a left turn onto the bridge. And the opening sprint here is worth 5 intermediate points as they started on the beginning of the bridge. And lots of big numbers being pushed out at the moment. There you can see Aaron Riel, the leader of Team Australia, really putting in the big ones as they spread it out. Brownlee's on the front at the moment. Gordon Benson's there. David Manwaring, as they come across the line. And it's difficult to see at the moment. My screen's breaking up pretty badly. We'll get an update from our producer if we can. I just can't really see at the moment. It's quite fuzzy where I am here in Sydney, Australia.
And me as well. I saw Aaron Riel go out of the blocks and try and time that sprint right, but from the look of it off screen, seeing the red jerseys drift back a little bit, I don't think he got over the top of whoever won that. So it'll be interesting to know who accumulated those points. There they are. Royal got second with Manwaring third. Yeah, with Gordon.
So
was
Australia
Benson
second and third. Yeah, and Gordon Benson off the top at the front. So Australia pick up 7 from Great Britain, 6. We spoke to Aaron Royal during the week, and here's a little bit about what he had to say. We'll pick out a couple of grabs from his as we move along in this race.
I mean, we don't have much. I mean, as in other than training, like this is my job to race, and there's no racing on at the minute. So, yeah, it does suck a little bit having to wake up at 3 a.m. to go and do a race and put you through hell. I guess you could sort of say I'm insane for doing that. But, yeah, like I said, there's not much else going on at the minute. So, getting up at this time of the morning is sort of worth it. And I'm also I'm doing another race series that also is the day before on Thursday. So this one for me is Friday morning, the Super League one, and I'm doing another one on Thursday morning also on Zwift, and that's also at the same time as well. So I'm at the moment living in an apartment building. I think my neighbours must think, or the ones below me or above me must think I'm absolutely mad.
Yeah, you'd be worried about what exactly is going on at 3 a.m. every night in Aaron Royal's apartment if you live next door. There'd be lots of strange noises coming through the walls. But at the moment, Team GB, a 1 point adrift. And Aaron Royal, we saw him up there in the saddle, figuring heavily in this one. And what we've noticed, I guess, over the course of the Zwift Classics and then also coming into this racing series is that the more you race on Zwift, the better you get at it. So great racers who are capable of pushing big watts, and I know Richard Murray has complained about this, and he's one of our green jersey winners in real life racing, is that he gets on Zwift and then suddenly he's getting beaten quite convincingly despite putting out big watt numbers. So just because you can put out big power doesn't mean you win these races. You've got to know when to do it. You've got to know exactly when to sit in, when to conserve energy, and when to go. And we see the same names popping up again and again. And there is Jackson Laundry, the winner of our last race by 0.05 of a second, moving to the front. We see guys that know how to do it. They're the guys that play and win.
Well, we've seen that, having called these now for a few months, as we heard Aaron Royal say, since COVID's come in, where a lot of the racing we've been doing and following has been this Zwift racing, and to see the evolution of the athletes and learning how to ride this I guess online racing has been remarkable to see. And big power numbers are important, but if there's anything I've taken away from seeing those athletes who are at the front more consistently, it's about knowing your timing and knowing that a bunch sprint may be happening in 300, 400 meters time, that the revs are going to come up from all the athletes a lot earlier than that would happen in a conventional race. And the ones that are getting that timing right are being very successful and staying up in that top group of athletes, controlling their power throughout the whole race. Because what tends to happen is you're on the front in 1 minute, and then you'll see the more inexperienced athletes drift to the back very, very quickly. So that's been the big takeaway for me in seeing those teams that are doing that more successfully. And Australia and GB in particular are always up near the front, and the entire team that is up near the front and well timed on those sprints, knowing exactly where they are.
All right, we are moving into the first King of the Mountain section. It is quite a long drag now from where we are up to the King of the Mountain banner, but it's not steep. The steep part has been and gone. It's about a 600-metre kicker right at the beginning, goes up to 11%. Now it's about a further kilometre drag at 1, 2 or 3% gradient up to the King of the Mountain banner. And a late inclusion for Team France, who had plenty of changes, is Sam Laidlow, and he is off the front, pushing about 400 plus watts at the moment. And behind him, I saw Alex Yee. So the attack coming from Laidlow, who's one of the lighter athletes, along with Yee, and these light athletes head up these climbs much more easily. And suddenly, Team France could be looking at picking up more points in this one King of the Mountain section than they did in the entire race yesterday. But the rest of the field are coming on very, very strong as we head further up towards this King of the Mountain banner. Australia sitting on 7 points, Team GB on 6. And Laidlow off the front with plenty of big names behind him. Brownlee, Van Riel, Manwaring, Pierre Lecour, Jackson Laundry, all looking to pick up these points as we get closer to the banner. And there is Van Riel.
And Marten's very, very good on these KOMs, and Australia needs these points, and so does Great Britain. I think it's a race off between Yi and I guess Yi for Great Britain and Marten van Riel from Australia. They're our two best climbers and the ones that tend to accumulate the points over the KOM. So this will be interesting.
All right, this is the second intermediate on the first lap. And now Torbendix Madsen, the Dane, racing for Team Germany. He's up towards the front as we follow along with Alex G, and everyone's come back together, and the pace is very, very hot, up to about 50 kilometres an hour. The banner will come around the turn in just a second. And Alistair Brownlee now pushing up 10.2, 10.3 watts. James Cunningham at 13.2 watts a kilogram. And they are up in the saddle. Brownlee, Buckingham, Benson, all the Brits at the front. There's an Australian jersey there as well. We're going to have to. And that was Aaron Royal. Was it Kunema who took it to Team France?
James Kunema. Yes. Geez, he timed that well if that was James Kunema, showing his Ironman strength and really positioning himself off Alistair Brownlee, who moved to the front a little early. James Kunema followed that well, and it looks like he jumped over the top of Brownlee just when it mattered. Geez, he's been a big standout for France. Yeah, James Kunema has been, what a signing. He's been their only point scorer in the last race, and Kunema. Can't see the...
Yep, Kunema gets it.
Buckingham.
5 points for James Kunema, Buckingham 4, Benson 3, Brownlee 2, and Van Riel 1. So GB's going to jump up to the top of the standings, and they did. There you can see the numbers. A really good King of the Mountain section for Great Britain, and some points in the bag for Team France. James Kunema took all 4 points that France picked up in the last race. He picks up 5 right there. USA on a couple of points there, and Brazil leads the 3 teams that are yet to score a point. But Great Britain in the box seat to pick up the GC. Now, so while we're speaking about Team GB, Macca, there is a competition running in the next couple of weeks at Super League Triathlon. Now, Jonathan Brownlee not racing. His brother is racing, obviously. But you have a great opportunity to win his tri-suit, as well as an SLT goodie bag, which is full of great stuff. Just head to superleaguetriathlon.com to enter that one. Should be a really, really good prize. Super League always put together fantastic prizes, and you can wear, if you can fit into Johnny's tri-suit, which I certainly will never do. But I do have one. I've got one at home as well, a Jake Burt whistle, and I yesterday I thought, I wonder if I'll fit into this. Tried it. And all of the blood stopped getting to my legs. I was completely cut off circulation-wise. It was a very tight fit. It wouldn't have been good to watch. So, unfortunately, I need no one big enough to fit me.
Maybe Christian Blumenfeld. You could potentially get a Norwegian kit.
I've got a Norwegian kit as well. It does fit, but it fits better, but it does not fit. I'm surprisingly fat.
Matt Sharp. We'll get you a Sharpie. I'll let Sharp. Matt Sharp's tall enough. He can palm you over a spare kit and get you racing.
Oh, well, that's very generous of him. It'll be long enough. I don't know if it'll be wide enough. Let's have a look back in the field here. I'm just looking at the timing at the moment to see if we've lost anyone off the back. And Maximilian Sperl, he's out for Team Germany with a technical. Jason West as well is well off the back, and Aidan Longcroft Harris too, who looks so promising around this time. What's happened to Alistair Brownlee? He's stopped. Alistair Brownlee has stopped. I don't know. He's not stopped. He's up in the saddle.
On screen.
Something's happened. There's a shake of the head. I'm not sure what's happened to Ali. He's looking around like, what's happened? And now Ali's out.
That'd be terrible for Great Britain, because they need his point scoring. They need his leadership on the road, and Australia could strike here, because he's definitely not moving on screen.
He is not moving. Right. I'm not sure what's happened there.
It's a
connection
tilt,
issues. I've got confirmation that Alistair Brownlee is out. He is now no longer in this race.
Oh, that's very, very bad news for Great Britain's point scoring ability and Great Britain's ability to win the overall league, to win the overall series. So Australia will take a lot from that, but it's sad. I think that's where Bucko is going to have to take a leadership. He's back moving again, Alistair Brownlee, but he's out of it. But I think Bucko have to take that leadership role for Great Britain now.
What does Brownlee do now? He's actually, he stopped moving again. This is the saddest thing I've seen in esports racing. What's happened to Ali? Oh dear, we'll have to try and see if we can get in touch with him or find out what's happened. But he's got the laptops. That's the Bluetooth keyboard. Either that or he's I don't know. He's got some room service. I'm not really sure. And he's trying to work it out. But
there's a problem with the connection, because he's obviously no problem in his pain cave. A small problem with the connection, and that's a big blow for Great Britain, a huge blow, and it's tough for the entire race. I think I'm wondering if the Australians are aware that Alistair's not in that group. With your head down, you're focused. You would have seen him pull up like we did, but whether they're aware he's no longer in the race I'm unsure of.
All right, well, let's move back to the front of the race. We'll bring you updates on that as soon as we can. But Cal Willie from Team Brazil is off the front by 3.3 seconds at the moment. And he knows that very soon we're going to be coming into this next sprint section. And you can see Aaron Royal pushing really hard. But Cal Willie's gone off very, very early. They're in the sprint section right now on the bridge. And there is Aaron Royal trying to push up. But Cal Willie is off the front. Max Stapley's there, Gordon Vincent, David Manwaring. But he's going to be able to hold them off, is he? As the rest of the chasing pack come in very, very swiftly, but I don't think it's going to be enough. And we're going to get an update then on who took out those sprint points. That's the third intermediate of 6. And the points are starting to stack up. Let's see if Team GB's been eroded at all. Gordon Benson, the best of them. Cal Willie took some points for Brazil. Great work. Max Stapley takes 4 for Australia. And Manwaring 2, Royal 1. So Australia gets 7 points to Team GB's 3. And Brazil take 5. So Team GB has seen their lead eroded somewhat. There are the points. And Brazil take their first of the series, I think, in fact.
Yeah.
USA on 2.
Yeah, that was a well-timed sprint by Brazil, but that was a very important sprint for Australia to accumulate those points and move up. And Aaron Royal sort of set that off, lined up the Australians to come in and accumulate those critical points, because these next 2 sprints could call the entire race. So it's important that we stay up near the front. With Brownlee now out on the Great Britain side, we need to score those first and second point scores as an Australian in order to push those Great Britain athletes off that top step.
Yeah, as this race begins to heat up, we're halfway through the intermediates. Of course, there's money on the line as well for the overall winner and a very, very big field of outstanding athletes. Minus, at the moment, Alistair Brownlee, who had the same technical issues in the Zwift Pro Tri race yesterday. We'll just give you an update on how you can stay in touch with Super League as we move back into in real life racing. Yeah, pick up the newsletter and keep up to date with everything that happens Super League Triathlon wise. There'll be more and more announcements as the updates keep coming and we move back into some semblance of normal life once again. But at the moment, it is 3 points between Team GB and Team Australia, and there is one of the honorary Australians right there, Marten van Riel, with his Red Bull headband on and all of his certificates on the wall behind him, like I do, except his one's probably actual race wins and mine are achievements for swimming across the pool and other such big things like that. But Team GB on 18, athletics. Australia 15.5. Yeah, that's right. Little athletics, participation awards, the best and fairest, which is the one they give to the kid that tried the hardest but was no good. All that stuff. I've got heaps of them.
Yeah, I think Martens are a little bit more than that. That's for sure. He's a phenomenal athlete. He's been a fantastic signing for Australia, Marten van Riel, and in Super League racing. If you cast your mind back to the first time we saw him in Mallorca, he tore that course apart it's Super League Mallorca, and he's done the same for Australia in the Zwift racing over this entire eSports series. So a fantastic athlete, incredible swimmer, magnificent bike rider, and he just does everything well. He's a talent. It would have been very, very one to watch at the Tokyo Olympic Games.
Yeah, if and when Tokyo ever actually happens, and right now on the course, as we watch Kasper Storm from Team Norway, who haven't really figured it all in this racing. This is the version of Mount Mallorca, if you like, that 600-metre section that spreads the field out, and now they go on the drag up towards the King of the Mountain in the second of our 3 laps around the Hilly Route reverse, and there's Alex Yee again with his partner trying not to get in shot, but wanting to watch the screen as Yee, in that beautiful British sunshine, takes it on as they move up towards the King of the Mountain. And look, we know that today it's a little bit glitchy, the feed from Zwift, but this is e-racing, and we're doing our best to bring you the best version of it that we possibly can, and to follow along on this racing. And again, if you're just joining us, Alistair Brownlee has had some connection issues, and he has been ousted from the back of this race. So Team GB without a leader, and has seen their lead Macca cut in half at the last King of the Mountain without their spiritual leader, if you like.
Without question. I think once we saw Alistair drift to the back and pull up, the Australians striked, I guess, on that next point scoring opportunity, and they tend to be doing the same again. You've seen the Australians bunch towards the front. I saw David Manwaring on the front with Marten van Riel, Aaron Royal starting to drift up. The Australians see an opportunity now with Brownlee out, and the Great Britain athletes, in particular with Yee and Buckingham, need to I guess pull their athletes back together, get back on top of things. There's Alex right there on screen, Alex Yee, who can win this KOM and can win the sprints. He's probably the standout with Bucko now left on the Great Britain squad to pull points to keep them in the opportunity to win the overall.
All right, King of the Mountain coming up for the second time. We're going to get to the highest point on this course, and Sam Laidlow again is pushing up off the front. He's gone very, very early with Gordon Benson behind him. There's some big names all lining up, as they tend to do at this exact point, but it's all about timing. At this point in the women's race, we'd only had 6 people left in the lead group, but we've only dropped about 5 of this one. A huge group of fantastic athletes heading up towards the banner for the second time. Team GB, 3 points to the good at the moment. And up the front, there is Alex Yee. We follow along as they head towards the King of the Mountain banner. It's 200 metres away. We just went past the sign. And Aaron Royal is absolutely hammering along at the moment as they cross the line, and it's a little glitchy there, but I think Gordon Benson, Mark Buckingham, Aaron Royal, James Cunningham, there they are across the line, and I think that's Buckingham and Benson, which means that, I think you're right, which means Team GB will pick up the lion's share of the points.
It could be Cunningham. I can see Manwaring up there, but it looked like it is just Bucko. That's a big sprint. Mark Buckingham from Benson and Cunningham, Aaron Royal and David Manwaring in 4th and 5th. So that was a very, very important sprint. Very, very important KOM for both the Australian and Great Britain teams. And Great Britain has struck again when it mattered and taken those critical maximum points.
Yeah, so they've picked up 9 points there as they head in the super tuck down the descent 700 metres back into downtown Watopia and across the lower bridge. I'll get on now. But all of a sudden, Team GB have reopened their lead and extended it even to the highest point during the course of this race. And it's been really interesting to hear a lot of the banter between GB and Australia. And Aaron Royal, as we spoke to a little earlier on during the week, knows exactly how important the win is here over GB for the Aussies.
Oh, for sure.
Any opportunity. The League Triathlon team that I trained with for many years, so I know them quite well. I'm still in like a WhatsApp group, so we speak after, or we have been speaking after each race, and I know they hate to lose, all of them, like not just Alistair, obviously he's the double Olympic gold medalist, but you know, they all hate to lose, and Bucko, Bence, Alex, they're all very competitive, so I knew they were going to come back strong.
So they haven't been hurt, Macca, with the loss of Ali Brownlee. Obviously, they got a little rattled there for a second as we cross the start-finishing line and head into the final lap of this race, 9.2 kilometres to go. But and we talked about it in the pre-show, Mark Buckingham's one of these guys who has presence in the pack, who can lead a team like that. And he's certainly done that and responded after losing Alistair and taken Gordon Benson along with him. And when you look at the numbers left, I mean, yes, we've lost Alistair Brownlee, but in Team GB, in this field, we have the highest 15-second power in Mark Buckingham, can push out 1,061 watts for 15 seconds. We have the highest watts per kilogram 20-minute power, which is Alex G at 6.1, and we have the highest overall 20-minute power, which is Gordon Benson at 426 watts. So these three guys that are left in Team GB are the record holders in all the key wattage output markers that Zwift brings to the table.
And they're pulling that out in this race. We just saw that in the last KOM, and they're setting it up, as you said. Bucko has taken that lull from Alistair Brownlee, who is missed, but when you've still got that type of horsepower and that type of talent in your team, and you've got that slight advantage now on the point scoring, you just need to stay up the front and allow those athletes to do their thing, and they've done that with Benson and Bucko accumulating those good points. And James Kunema, if we could have this entire series over again, I wish James Kunema had come in a lot earlier than just the last race, because he has been in every KOM, every sprint, and for an Ironman athlete, he's been magnificent, and he's accumulating those points for France, sort of a bit late in the game for France. So it's a tragedy in that sense.
Yeah, it is, and when you consider like he's one of the older athletes and he's more used to longer racing, he's an incredible athlete, James Kunema, and great to have him as part of our series as Cal Willie from Team Brazil, who saw some success doing this same thing, coming out of downtown Watopia into the S's, so this rolling section of about 1.3 kilometres, and pushing early to try and put himself in a good position to take out the top points in the sprint across the bridge, which comes up next. He's now 5.7 seconds ahead of the rest of the group, who have been unwilling to go with him and want to stay in the draft in this pack as we follow along with James Kunema. But Cal Willie was 3.3 seconds ahead at this point in the last lap, and he managed to hang on for the sprint win. So he thought, I'm going to do that again. And it's Ronaldo Colucci who comes back into Team Brazil, the most experienced Team Brazil athlete, leads this pack to try and control this pack, and it led his teammate in Willie to take those points once again. Certainly seems to be the right thing to do. You've really got to put in the hard yards, though, to make a break stick on Zwift.
Yeah, and you're probably seeing Great Britain wanting this break to go away. They know that these critical points that Australia could take off them in the sprint. With Brazil picking up those points, they steal the points from Australia being able to close that gap to Great Britain. So Bucko is probably saying, let's let Willie get across, get that break like he did in the last one, take those maximum points, let Colucci take those second points, and that really shuts out Australia from their point scoring opportunities. That's a good move from Great Britain. That's probably why you're seeing this gap open up a little more than you did in that last.
Well, there is the chasing pack, and they're going to come across the bridge once again. And then once again, Cal Willie's going to take those points. Absolutely. Gordon Benson, Mark Buckingham, Marten van Riel, David Manwaring, Aaron Royal, all off the front. But Cal Willie takes the points again, and it's literally anyone's race there. I saw plenty of red coming across the line, so I think Australia's going to figure heavily in the smaller points, but not going to be enough. I think. Yeah, 3 Aussies in the back there, a couple of Brits as well.
2 Brits.
Cal Willie off the front. And we'll see right there. So Buckingham, Manwaring, Benson, Van Riel. And in the better positions there are Team GB again with 4 and 2. Yeah. And Australia gets 3 and 1. So again, a further 2 points to add to Team GB. And you would have thought, I think they've pretty much got it in the bag now, because there's only one to go with the 5 points. And Team GB have won the general classification, has won the team points race. Now all that's left to decide is the general classification. And just to remind everybody, as Tor Madsen goes on the attack, the general classification is decided by the top 2 times from your team.
So the top two of your team across the line, their times are added together and added into the GC overall from the previous two races. Now, after our first two races in this series, only 3 seconds separate Australia, Great Britain, and Canada, with Australia 2 seconds ahead of GB, with Canada a further second back. So the positioning of the top two athletes from each team are going to be very, very important in 5.4 kilometres time, and we'll have to do the maths and see who takes it out. But if it finishes in a bunch sprint, that'll play into Australia's hands. Madsen off the front. And don't forget, we want to remind you one more before I go back to you, Macca, that we can, or you can, I'm not allowed to, win a Jonathan Brownlee tri-suit and a Super League Triathlon goodie bag. You have the opportunity to win this over the next couple of weeks. Johnny Brownlee obviously not racing. Ali Brownlee not racing either now after having some technical issues. All you have to do is head to superleaguetriathlon.com to enter and win a whole bunch of Super League merch, and including Johnny Brownlee's tiny tri-suit. But Madsen off the front, and yeah, we're going to see this finish in a bunch sprint if we want Australia to win this one, which we obviously both do, having got up at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Without question, I think the, what the big takeaway from that last sprint was the commitment of Bucko to ensure he grabbed those points. GB have opened this gap and slowly dug in that knife over the Australian team during this entire point scoring opportunity in today's race. They've just out-pipped Australia at every opportunity, and we saw that again. And that's really been headed up by Bucko, with Alex Yee and Vincent grabbing those other places. So when you look past those top 5 positions, GB and Australia are 6th, 7th and 8th. So they've been all over the racing, and it's been very, very clever to let the Brazilians take those maximum points and then to take out those minor point scoring opportunities. And that's won them this race without question. And now it's down to the GC. This finish will be an interesting sprint, and I think I'd love to see Australia time this perfectly and get this one right, just to get one little win up on this race, because it's been all GB from the onset today.
It certainly has, as they head up the mountain underneath the big cycling statue for the last time. This signals the last of our intermediates, the last king of the mountain. The intermediates do not matter at this point. Team GB have it wrapped up. They pick up the 1,000 points for the $1,000, for the maximum points in the race. But as I said, and as we keep saying now, it comes down to, if it's a bunch sprint, Australia needs to make sure they get 2 over the line, and a total of 2 seconds ahead of Team GB, who'll look to get 2 over the line as well, and it will most likely be, I reckon Alex Yee, you'll have a sprint in him. Benson and Buckingham also fantastic. And Team Canada could just swoop in and steal this one as well. Team Canada made up of Brent McMahon, Matthew Sharp, Jeremy Brand and Nathan Killam. Now, McMahon and Sharp are off the back, so they aren't going to figure. But Jackson, Nathan Killam, and Jeremy Brown are there or thereabouts. So anyone's race, this one, and that's to pick up $4,000 US, and that's the big one. So it's going to be decided between Australia, Canada, and Great Britain for the $4,000, $2,000, and $1,000. But the key, and it doesn't matter overall if Casper Storms or in fact Tor Madsen go off the front. It's only about getting your 2 athletes across the line. But points on offer for the top of this one, and we know what races are like. Doesn't matter whether it means anything or not. It's all about getting to the top the first. And Casper Storms, good to see Norway up the front.
Yeah, we haven't seen a lot of Norway, and to see them on the front finally is great. Casper Storms is very, very strong. And David Manwaring, if you cast your mind back to the last weight with Jackson Laundry out sprinted Alistair Brownlee with Stapley in third, it was Manwaring who just got his timing wrong on that last race. I think he's staying up near the top 3 in this entire lead up into this finishing sprint. If you look at his name, it's always near the front. So it's important that he stays close to another Australian. I've seen Van Riel swinging around him with Aaron Royal. The Australians seem to be bunching, and Great Britain just off their wheel and trying to time that. I think Manwaring is our guy. The Australians are going to try and set him up, and it'd be great to see him get across that line in front of those GB athletes to pull those maximum dollars for the Aussies, who have been so good throughout the series.
Yeah, we try so hard to not be biased during the actual Super League Triathlon series, but we've thrown that directly out of the window at this time of the morning here in Australia. And just want to see Australia have a win, but how good's Team GB been? And also up the front there, as I said, is Nathan Killam and Jeremy Brown for Team Canada. So it's literally anyone's race as they head up a couple of 100 metres now, and there's two groups at this point pushing at the front for this King of the Mountain, but both Team GB and Team Australia and Team Canada, they'll all know that they don't necessarily need to win this one. It's already in the bag, the race for Team GB, and we see the two red jerseys there of Stapley and Manwaring. We see two yellow jerseys of Benson, and I think, who's the other? Well, there's another Team GB athlete there as well. Knowing that they need, in this 700-metre downhill and then back onto the flat, to stay in a group, Team GB need to finish 2 seconds up. Benson wins the King of the Mountain, and GB absolutely dominate this time in terms of the points. Kunema's there again from Madsen, Stapley, and Casper Storms picks up a lonely point for Team Norway, but now it comes down to the GC, and they're all in the super tuck and getting ready to push for this last 1,500 metres.
This will be massive, and you notice the Australians didn't go. Yeah, the Australians didn't get involved in that KOM sprint, so maybe they're lining this up for the most important thing for the Aussies, which is getting two of them across this next line. So that's the first time the Australians haven't been in a point-scoring opportunity in the KOM, with 1K to go as they go under the Flamme Rouge.
1 kilometre to go, and don't forget, we're going to be on IG Live straight after this race to talk to the winners and losers and wrap up this series. And so head on over to Super League Triathlon Instagram to watch that. I'll be talking to whoever takes this one out. And at the moment, it's literally anyone's. There's a bit of a gap back now from our top 8 to the rest of the field, and they're going to push very, very hard. I only see one Team GB athlete in that one, and that's Gordon Benson. Yeah. Mark Buckingham's 1.2 seconds back, but that's pretty easily done. 300 metres to go, and it looks like Australia's in the box seat, and up comes the sprint now. I think that's Benson at the front. He wants to finish first. Big numbers throughout. Benson, Kunema's there, Brienne, Stapley. I see Nathan Killam as well, Gordon Benson off the front. And everyone's pushing very, very hard. And across the line came someone from Team France in the end.
Benson. Was it Benson? I saw Kunema up there, but I couldn't pick it. Could not pick it.
Yeah, it was difficult to pick there at the back end. We're going to see the results right now, and we're going to try and work it out. So James Kunema picks up the finish from Benson, Brienne, Stapley, Manwaring, and then the Norwegian pair of Cedric Kristoffersen and Casper Storms, and Tor Madsen, Laundry and Killam. So I think Australia's got it, because Stapley, despite having the French flag, is racing for Team Australia, and they're finished in 4th and 5th, and I think that is going to make it Australia. So the points, the $1,000 goes easily to Great Britain. In our general classification, provisionally, I think Australia has picked up the $4,000, and it will be I think just over 2 seconds in the end from Team Great Britain, if I am correct.
I couldn't call it from here, but they seem to be more grouped together with Great Britain. Not, it's basic mathematics. You would assume that two Australians being so close together in that top 5, their accumulated times is going to be less than Great Britain. So that should be enough for them to win the GC.
It is. We've had our mathematicians tapping keyboards in the background, and Australia have won the general classification. We'll hopefully speak to someone from Team Australia in the IG Live afterwards, but who would have thought that in the end it would have come down to a couple of seconds, and this is over 3 or 3.5 hours of racing, 2 seconds in the end, and this is one of those courses that lead itself to a bunch finish, and it played out that way, and Australia wins the general classification.
Oh, that was great. Here we get a better look at the sprint there, and you see it was Kunema, who was never really challenged. He set that up. You see him come across and boom, straight over the top of Benson. Never challenged at all with the two Australians in the red at the back. Great sprinting.
Yeah, and those two Australians, they delivered the GC just by finishing up there. And 2 seconds in the end to make up for a dominant Team GB is just too much in this type of racing to be able to go 2 seconds out with two riders and hold off the rest of the field. Almost an impossible situation for them to have to attack that much.
Yeah, it was great racing all round. I liked the race within the race. The GB athletes were very, very organised in accumulating those intermediary sprints and won that points division of the racing we had throughout the whole series. They were just very, very well organised. But I liked the fact that the Australians let that last KOM point scoring opportunity go. They knew there was no use pursuing that, and they needed to go for that overall GC. Stay together. Manwaring set that up, and the proof's in the pudding. They did enough to win the overall, which is great news for them. They've been the two standout teams for the entire series, and it was between both of them, and it was a great day of racing for the Aussies.
And just good to get some racing in, and we hope all of you have enjoyed joining us throughout the month of June to see some racing. And Macra, you were a bit of a Zwift rookie maybe 2 months ago, but now you're right across it, and it's delivered some really, really good moments, hasn't it?
It's been a fantastic void filler of the racing. I think I enjoy racing as much as you do. I know the athletes do. We heard Aaron Royal say that earlier, that he has no problems getting up at 3 a.m. to race because that's what he does for an occupation. He enjoys racing. So for me, to be able to see the athletes in their pain cave, to be racing, to learn as they go, to show their ability and their flexibility to learn a new skill, I guess a new racing skill, has been great. And I've actually enjoyed it from the beginning, where I thought, this is going to be very, very different. How are we going to do this? To seeing how it's come together, it's been great. I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and I hope we see more of it. I'm looking forward to the real racing, that's for sure. But if there has to be a void filled, and this does a pretty good job of doing that.
Absolutely gets me the chance to talk to you at 3 o'clock in the morning, which if we ever do, that's normally not quite as legible. Thank you so much, Macca, for joining us across the last month.
Thanks, Will.
All right, there you go. That wraps up our eSports cycling series across the course of June. We hope you've enjoyed it. Sorry for the little glitchy feed we had today. Please head on over to our Instagram Live right now. I'll be talking to the winners and losers, and we'll be gloating in a Team Australia win. But how good was Team GB, and how good was the racing overall? Head on over there right now. We'll see you soon.